Hello, 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 y'all. Welcome. I'm excited to be here with you. Just double checking that everything is working. It looks like it is. Yes, okay, we're live on both YouTube and Twitch. We have closed captions. You can click the little CC button in the lower corner of your stream, no matter where you're watching. Hello, hello, hello. For those of you who haven't been to a live stream with me before, hi, I'm Dimmer. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a coach at Major League Hacking, and I'm so excited to see you all here today. We have a really cool stream in front of us today. I know I say that every time, but I do believe that it is true every time. 404, no way, I forgot so fast. I mean, there are new people to the stream, 404. I know you're here every time, but there are new people. Hello from India. Hello, hello. Hey, how are you? I'm doing really well today. I'm really excited. It's so nice to see you again. It's so nice to see y'all again. I love streaming with y'all. MLH just has such a wonderful community. It seems like we're gonna have a smaller stream today than we had on that crazy first day.
I meant I forgot the code for Peter.
Oh, do I have, so it looks like I'll need to send that over here. Where's Peter? Peter the pizza. Did that work? Whoa, no it did not. Wait, yes it did. It shows in chat, but is not showing here. What happened? So that is the right code. Hello from Bolivia. Wow, okay. I've never seen someone in chat from Bolivia before, so welcome. Hello. I'm gonna test.
Good job.
Okay, so channel point rewards are working, but apparently 7TV emotes in chat are not. So we're gonna start this stream with some good old-fashioned troubleshooting. I'm gonna look at this for maybe 3 minutes while we give people time to roll in. Hello, hello. And then we're gonna get started with Brain game development in Godot, which is a really, really cool open source game engine. Yeah, I'm disappointed that our custom emotes, so if you have the 7TV extension, they're still showing.
I'm excited for Godot.
I am excited to be working with Godot too. We're going to be making a simple platformer game, but I'm saving points for the Rickroll. Ooh, yes. For those of you who don't know, there's a Rickroll option for channel point rewards that is 25,000. It only works on my stream, and I think it can be used once every 24 hours. And when it does, it plays an extremely, extremely low bitrate version of Never Gonna Give You Up. I believe the entirety of it. It is quite the channel points reward. Let me take a look. I don't believe I can fix chat without going offline, the custom emotes. So I think we're just gonna need to live with not having custom emotes show up right here. They do still work if you have 7TV installed yourself, but they won't show on screen, which I know is half the fun. I only have 15k. Maybe I shouldn't have spent 70k points on metal pipes. I mean, you do what you gotta do. Hello, hello. I'm sure people will eventually get to the 25k. Thank you, 404, for the metal pipe, which I increased in price to 5,000 because we just constantly had metal pipes before. So it's a trial run. We'll see if I can keep it around or if I'll need to take it again away again. Your smirk showed you knew it. So yeah, if I screen share, you can see along this side right here, I can see when things redeem, and it usually shows up here right before. So I've learned, you've taught me through trauma of having this happen over and over again to constantly be looking for changes there. you might be able to get me if and when I'm in the middle of something and I'm not watching that. Okay. Settings. Okay. Thank you for bonking me. This is Abraham. I now have them in my chat, so I'll be able to send them to y'all. But again, they aren't showing up in the little preview. LMAO, that was perfect timing. It truly was, with the Peter the Pizza and the bonk. Okay. I'm going to try one more thing, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. 28 people here today, which is a nice party. Oh my goodness, it shows 41 people on Twitch. Is my OBS out? Oh my goodness, it's 42 now. Yeah, my OBS is way out of date. OBS viewer count says 28. Well, hello to all 41, 42 of you. OBS catch up. I mean, OBS is doing a lot here. What's people's favorite stream been thus far? I know there have been a lot of cool streams that have happened with a bunch of different streamers. It's 1:37 a.m. here. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for being here. This stream is my favorite stream, or your last stream. I mean, that feels a little pandery 404, but I appreciate it. Y'all, I appreciate you showing up no matter what time it is. So for those of you who have not done live streaming stuff before, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. This is Stream Elements, which is what I use to show chat on the side of screen and things like that. So right here in my chat, I'm going to go into settings and see. Ooh. Yeah, okay. It looks like I do not have an option here to enable 7TV emotes. Nowadays, every streamer held at these timings. I'm sorry about that. I know that theoretically, there are streams that are held at all types of times, but a lot of the streamers, like myself, are on... I'm on Eastern time. Not everyone's on Eastern time, but a lot of people are on North American times. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We'll just have a slightly more boring chat today. So, for those of you who... Okay, my OBS is finally updated. I can see 42 viewers. For those of you who did not hear me before, today we are going to be talking about Godot, which is an open source game engine. So it fits in perfectly for open source week, but also it's very, I would say, pertinent right now with some things that were just coming up in the news, including this: Unity makes major changes to controversial install fee program. So in essence, Unity in September, this is September 22nd, so things have gotten better, but, oh, it's 51 now, OBS is still slow. Okay, well, anyway, Unity made a big sweeping change to their terms of service, which applied retroactively. So if you made a game with Unity, they changed the terms of service from when you created that game. So even when you signed your original terms of service, you created this game, you launched it, they could still go back and change their payment model. And in this case, they wanted it so that you would pay a fee every time someone installed your game, which is... Exactly. Oof. It is oof indeed. A lot of developers were really mad about this. There was a lot of pushback, and thankfully Unity's rolled it back. The Unity CEO is leaving in disgrace. There are a whole bunch of things that have happened in response to this, but in essence, it is shown that Unity doesn't necessarily have the trust of the game developer space, especially if you're going to spend all of this time and all of this effort and all of this passion into creating this thing that is as complicated as a game, and then you are going to let Unity just do whatever they want to it, and really just change things on you. So a lot of developers are trying to get away from Unity, and there are plenty of options out there, including, so there's Unity and Unreal Engine are the two really huge ones. Unreal Engine is made by Epic Games, the same people who made Fortnite. And actually Fortnite is made in Unreal Engine. I am of the age that I know of Unreal Engine for how incredible Infinity Blade looked. It was an older, at this point really old, mobile game that was one of the first ever mobile games that just looked incredible. And then there are a ton of other brain. Wow, this is the second time this has happened in the stream. There are a ton of other game engines out there. Those are just the two big ones. My favorite, oh, I just realized I have a hanger behind me. Little Easter egg for us. Pygame, I'm blanking. I have a friend who is Constructor, I believe, is the engine that they are using. There are a whole bunch of these. But I specifically want to talk about Godot because Godot is very versatile, and I think it is a very good tool for you to learn if you're just getting started in wanting to learn about game development. So we've talked about Godot before. We've had streams about it in the past, and I actually talked about it in my last stream, but it is right here. They call it the game engine you've been waiting for. Free, all-in-one, cross-platform game engine that makes it easy for you to create 2D and 3D games. This is, I guess, the reason why I really like Godot, is because one of the things that's incredible about Unity is that it was an engine that worked equally well for 2D and 3D games. And Unreal Engine is not great for 2D games. It is mostly for 3D stuff, and it does incredible work with 3D, hyper-realistic graphics, all of those things, but that's not what usually independent developers are building. Any thoughts on Source Engine? So Source Engine is, again, another really popular game engine, but I believe it is still... Yes, okay, it is still proprietary. So Source is a game engine that a lot of different games have been built on that is very cool, and Source 2 is now out. I don't know much about it, but I know a lot of changes with... I follow esports and all of the CSGO 2 different things that are different with Source 2. Anyway, it's very cool and also proprietary, so it's hard for you to get your hands on it and for you to license it. So I'm not necessarily at a point where I am like able to teach people like, here's how you can create games that sell and here's how to be a professional indie game developer, but I am at a point where I can talk to you about how you make a game. So that's what we're really going to be focusing on with Godot. Anyone remembers Blender's game engine? Oh, I've heard of this. Proprietary? Did I say that weird? Either way, proprietary. So we're going to be using Godot today, and Godot 4.1 was just released fairly recently. I think Godot is very cool. I will nerd out. Oh no, we were talking last stream about how hard that is. Okay. Yeah, so just scrolling down through their stuff, release on all platforms. This is another thing that is incredible. Like, this is a lot of the reason why people used to use Unity, but I would also argue that it is a good reason to use Godot. Release on all platforms. So you can develop one version of your game and deploy it across desktop, mobile, and the web. I think that's pretty cool. It's very Flutter-esque for those of y'all who are app developers. It has 3D that is not necessarily, I wouldn't argue that it is the most powerful 3D engine in existence, but it is a very functional 3D engine, and it is a very, very good 2D engine. Someone just asked what languages are used in Godot. Godot uses, we're going to be using GDScript today, which is Godot's own scripting language. It's very Pythonic in the way that it's structured, but then they also use C# and C++. It uses nodes for everything, which for those of you who've used node-based editors before know how powerful that is. For those of you who haven't, it can sometimes be a little overwhelming at first, but it basically gives you a way of nesting things inside of each other and giving like ownership and hierarchy, which is very nice. In some other game engines, the way that it's structured means that you're making everything like an actor or like a game object, and it's like these weirder systems where this works a lot more for different versatile things. And again, it is open source. Nodes is in code with blocks. No, not as in code with blocks, but more as in if you are a huge nerd in graph theory, that sort of node. It would be wonderful if it had block code. I believe that is a thing that they are working on. Yeah, Unreal's block code gave me scars. I tried using Unreal's block code because I didn't want to use C# when I was first learning about game development, and it was rough. Godot block-based coding. I could have sworn Godot... I thought Godot had a visual programming language. Oh. It has been discontinued. Okay, so Godot at one point had a visual scripting language. It no longer does. Anyway, this is to say, very cool. It's what we're going to be working with today. So I'm going to download latest, and I'm going to download it for macOS, because that is what I'm developing on. I'm going to link Godot engine in chat, so if y'all want to follow along. The structure of the stream generally is going to be with us following. I found a very, very good tutorial that I liked, that this person was able to create a video that is like 3.5 hours long. So we're going to watch it in parts and slightly sped up, and then we're going to recreate it ourselves. And it is a great introduction on creating platformer games in Godot. So that's where we're going to start. And we're going to see how far we get into it. I believe we are going to be able to get most of the way, if not all of the way done. If not, I'm always going to be linking this tutorial for y'all. Here it is. I'm going to paste it in chat. Let me double check that that's the right link. For those of you who've been to my streams before, you know that I like to follow a tutorial for something like this, because I think it gives a better learning experience for y'all to be able to pick things up after the stream, rather than me just giving a lecture. So this gives you resources outside of it, and also you get the experience of being able to ask questions in a live environment, because I have worked in Godot before. So this is a complete 2D platformer in Godot 4 tutorial, 0 to shipped game. This is also a very cool thing, which I have built. I showed last time that I have built a game in Godot, but I didn't learn specific things. So that game only had one level, and I never actually like really shipped it. I technically built it out to be web, but it was jank. So this is someone who really knows what they're talking about and can take you from start to finish. And we're in a live environment, so we can ask questions. With that being said, I am going to turn down the music. Here we go. And I'm going to press play. So this is the game that we're going to be making.
Let's make a 2D platformer from scratch in Godot 4.
Let me turn this one up. Nope, I'm making a top-down shooter. Right now, I mean, go for it. I think that sounds fun and cool. And also, not necessarily what this tutorial is going to be teaching us. So let me adjust audio here.
Launch Godot and have a project manager. I've got a whole bunch of projects that I've worked on for videos and my own projects. Yours might be blank. Yours might have other things you've done. Regardless, we're going to go over here, click New Project.
Great. Okay. That sounds good to me. Yes, I will follow along and make a top-down shooter. I will plant an apple seed and a mango tree will turn up. I mean, I love the confidence that you have. Okay. So great. Oh my goodness. You can tell how cursed my downloads are that I've been working with chat. Oh, these downloads are so cursed. Okay. Let's unzip Godot here. Great. Okay. So I have Godot, the engine, running. What was that, lol? At one point, I asked chat to send me as many memes as they could, and these were the memes that we ended up with. It was quite deranged, and then we have our Never Gonna Give You Up music video that we then used originally. Bring back the goose. Yes, the goose will come back in a future stream at some point, but it doesn't work for all streams, and it will not work for this one. So, okay. With that, let's go back to... Where did I... My file management has become, or my window management has become a little off the rails. There we go. Okay. Let us continue, or actually start, the tutorial, which starts with creating a new game project. And let me know if the audio is okay.
And then we're going to name our project 2D Platformer. You can name it whatever you want. If I wasn't making this as a video, I would call it Devil Boy, because I think that would be thematic with the sprites we're going to use. But place it where you want it. You can browse. I know exactly where I'm going to put mine. So, you know, put it wherever you want it. Obviously, don't put it in a screencast folder, because you ain't making the screencast, right? Click Create Folder if you just typed it in. You have to do this for Create Folder to work. But again, you can use Browse. Then we're met with our first sort of Godot bit of a choice. Our first choice in the game of Godot, which is which renderer to use. You can do Forward Plus, that's advanced 3D graphics, but we're making a 2D game. You can do Mobile, which supports desktop and mobile. It's for less advanced 3D graphics. Fast rendering for simple scenes, that's pretty good. Compatibility, fastest rendering of simple scenes. Supports desktop, web, and mobile. Least advanced 3D graphics. Well, we're not making a 3D game, so I think compatibility is great, especially for 2D projects. There might be other reasons not to use it, but from as far as my knowledge is I choose compatibility unless I'm making a more advanced 3D game. Click Create and Edit. That will create your project and open it in Godot. You can see the name of your project here, and you're met with this screen. We've got a lot going on, and I think by following and watching, you'll catch on pretty quick. You're first greeted with this 3D view, which is up here. You know, we're not making a 3D game, so you can just click the 2D, and you lose the Z-axis, which is nice. And now we have a Y-axis, an X-axis, and we're feeling good. What else should I show you? Over here, we've got the scene view. Scenes are different views into your game. The main menu is a scene. Level 1 is a scene. Level 2 is a scene. Settings menu would be a scene. Those are all scenes. And then even like...
404 is asking, can we pause for like 5 minutes? My Godot is installing. So, the two things about Godot. One, theoretically, it shouldn't need to install. It'll just need to download. Two, we're going to be watching the tutorial for... It's split up into groups. So if we look at the chapters here, we're probably going to get through our first scene, which gets us to 8 minutes. So you should have plenty of time while we're just watching this. Before then, I will be implementing it, and you can follow along directly there. So you should have plenty of time to install and download everything that you need to do.
Objects within your game, like your player, gets created into a scene that we load into other scenes. So scenes are a very important foundational part of Godot. And don't worry, we'll make our fair share of scenes. Down here is the file system. Godot makes it really easy to view the files in your project. And here I've opened them in my Finder. It would be Explorer if you're on Mac, or on Windows. I'm on Mac. And you can see we're at the path I created. We have Project Godot, and then we have an icon that Godot gives us here. Over here's the inspector. We'll get to that soon. And in the middle is our workspace. So let's start by clicking Add 2D Scene, and that created our first scene. But we haven't saved it yet. You'll see up here it says Unsaved. Let's start with the main menu. Boring stuff, but I think it'll really illustrate a lot of the important parts of Godot before we get into gameplay. So I'm going to press Command S, you press Control S if you're on Linux or Windows, and save main menu in our resource file, which is our project directory. And TSCN is the default scene name for Godot scenes.
Which one should I download, the console one or the other one? Let's take a look here. And wait, you unzip it and it's ready to go. Yeah, so Godot runs self-contained as an application. So you unzip it and then you can just open it. It's very nice in that way. It's super portable. Let's take a look at the Godot website. I believe you install the non-console one, but that's not what we're looking for. Download. I'm not looking for Mac OS. Let's see. Okay. I'm assuming you're looking at Windows. What should I download? The console one or the other one? I don't know what you mean by the console one. Yeah, it should just be a download. Oh, 44 saying the other one. Which makes sense to me, but again, I'm not seeing what you're seeing. If you can give me... Oh, it also does have a web editor, which is wonderful. So if you're on like a Chromebook, the console version in the extracted thing. Ah, yes. Sorry, you'll run the regular one. On macOS, it's all one thing. Once you abstract it, you run the regular one. Thank you. That was a good question. Any other questions? Feel free to ask in chat, and we'll always pause and talk about it.
I name things snake case, so lowercase with underscores to connect them. Looks like a snake. Click save, and then now you'll see here we have main menu TSCN. Open it in File Manager, and we have our scene there. So we just created a file. You're not often working from outside of Godot, except when you're importing things. So that is what we have there. Now our main menu scene doesn't have a whole lot going on, but that's okay. Let's click this triangle here, the play button. It says no main scene has ever been defined. Select one. You can change it later in project settings under the application category. So this says when you launch our game, which scene should be displayed. We want it to be our main menu, so we just say select current. Godot launches. You can see the title of our game here, 2D platformer, and an empty screen. So it begins. You can just close that and it ends it. But another nice thing is you can just keep it running, and most of the time, unless you change some fundamental things, Godot will go and automatically reload it as we make changes. So let's see that in action. I'm gonna just click back here, but that game's still running. We'll switch to it in a second. I right-clicked, and I'm gonna do add child node. You can also do the plus sign here, do the same thing. Also, Command A, Control A does the same thing. And this brings up our node view. We're met with another decision tree in Godot, which is what are nodes and how to add them. So if scenes are collections of nodes in a tree format, so tree means that you can have multiple children and they can have children, and you can group them together that way. And you'll see there's a whole bunch of them. But here's what I want to tell you. You don't need to know like 70% of them, right? Only 30% are the ones you're going to use, and you're going to use them all the time. So don't worry, it's okay. We'll go here into canvas item. That's something that's drawn on the canvas of our game. And we'll expand node 2D, node 2D. And these are the ones that we really care about. And you'll see these will be things like animated sprites, things that have physics like our character body. But I jumped the gun a little bit. What we actually want to do is go into control. And we're going to add a label. A label is a way to display text. So you just select it and click create, and you'll see now our main menu has a child node called label. And over here in the inspector are a bunch of properties about it. Click into text, and you can type something in. I'm going to type in 2D platformer because this is going to be the title of our game. Double click the label here and just rename it the title label. That helps you keep organized and see when you're working with the scene what it's named. And just drag it kind of to the center. There are ways to precisely center something on the screen, but let's not worry about that now. Just know you can add it and drag it. And then let's actually go back to our running game, and you'll see 2D platformers there, but it wasn't centered. So sometimes you might have to rerun your game, but now you'll see it centered. If we drag it, it moved there. You might not notice that. Drag it somewhere. Move. So sometimes you gotta, like when you add new nodes, you gotta rerun your scene or your game. But for the most part, you can just move it around and change it and just adjust it till it feels right. That feels pretty good to me. If you change it here, just add an S at the end, it updates it there. Let's look at a couple other things. We could make the labels width, the full width of the game, and then we could say horizontally center it. That's one way to center something. It's kind of a funny way to do it. But you can change text alignment. Good to know. What other things are relevant right now? Let's go to theme and click type variation. And Godot comes with a few out of the box.
So I'm going to pause here and talk about two things. 404, why don't we say the T in Godot, name it Godot, G-O-D-O. So this game was originally made by two developers in Argentina, which they were basically a studio that created in essence, they created and sold a game engine for different companies to use in their games. And then when they moved on from that, they open sourced it, and it's grown from there. So originally that's just because of a quirk of the Spanish language, I believe. And then there are parallels to Unity. It's so much like Unity, but at the same time very different. That is one of the reasons why I like this so much, is that Godot takes a lot of the same layout and some of the same structural elements as Unity and makes it open source and much more creator and developer oriented. So I think there are plenty of benefits to Godot, but if you end up becoming a professional game developer and you're working at a studio that uses Unity, that transition over is, I think, easier than using something like, again, I used to have all of these different game engines memorized, like, RPG Maker or something like that is very specific. Can we do ragdolls in Godot? Oh yes, of course you can do ragdolls in Godot. I don't think we're going to be getting to that today, but you can. We're going to go a little bit further and then we're going to make this.
And let's make it a header large. So that will make it bigger, which is just nice. You know, it implies this is the title of our game, this is what matters. And yeah, we're getting there, slowly but surely. So in the main menu, we're going to make it so that you can start the game.
Okay, great. That gets us to, I'm going to basically stop every chapter marker roughly because this is broken up into chapters. And then we are going to switch over to Godot and implement it ourselves. So we've gotten there. Now we open up Godot. And what we did was we created a new project and we are going to call this Open Source Week Platformer. And we are going to put it in... Oh, I forgot how whack Unity makes all of your... Unity creates folders in such a weird way. So my folders here are a little bit weird. Documents, MLH projects, and then Global Hack Week, Open Source Week. And we're going to make a folder for this that is game. Great. And we're going to set it to compatibility, create and edit. Hey, hello. I'm so glad to see you too. And yeah, I'm glad that I'm live as well. And you're totally fine joining in late. We are going to be basically following, if I still have this. Yes, we're following this tutorial. So we're like 8 minutes into it. You can either just follow along with us or you can work to catch up. There's plenty of things that you can do. So what we're going to do is we're creating a 2D scene. And we're going to save that as main title or title screen. Let's do. This is the alt Unity, right? I saw the last stream on YouTube. Yes, this is Godot, which is a very similar thing to Unity. We're creating a title screen, and then we're going to add a child node, so a node under this. And it is going to be a label. Great. And then what we can do is we can just drag this. Yes, we can just drag this. And then we can make it bigger. And then what did he put in there? He just called it 2D platformer. 2D platformer. Great. And then we can horizontally center align it. We miss not having your streams. Yeah, I'm so glad to be back. And then what did... I missed, I was looking up, double checking the origins of Godot, so I missed when he changed its styling.
Let's look at a couple other things. We could make, feels pretty good to me. If you changed here, just add an S at the end, it updates it there. Let's look at a couple other things. We could make the labels with the full width of the game, and then we could say horizontally center it. That's one way to center something. It's kind of a funny way to do it. But you can change text alignment, good to know. What other things are relevant right now? Let's go to theme.
Theme, okay. And then we can go into theme. Ooh, he created the theme. That's why.
And click type variation. And Godot comes with a few.
Wait, what? Oh, it's in type variation. Okay, there we go. Header large. Great. Where's the pizza? It is Peter the Pizza. But chat is slightly broken, so it doesn't necessarily show in this chat, but if you have the 7TV extension installed, it should work. But okay, so now we have our title, which is a node. We have our title screen, and we've made it a title size.
Dimmer killed Peter.
I didn't mean to. I don't know why. It just wasn't working when I started stream, but I realized after I started stream, and to fix this, I think I would need to reset OBS, which would require going offline. How you wrote 2D platform. So when we click on the label, right here, there's this box that says text, and we can click into that and we can edit that. And then down here is our options for it. So this is the inspector. When we click on one of our nodes here, it gives us all of the options for that node. So in this case, because this is a label node, it's where we can add our text and we can edit what it looks like. I'm going to give people a couple seconds, ask any questions, follow up, and then we're going to go back to the tutorial. And again, I'm going to keep dropping this link to the tutorial in chat. We're going to drop it before the stream ends, so you can follow this outside of your of the stream. Can we change the fonts? Yes, you totally can change the fonts. So we can click on it, and where does it say font? I believe... we'll see if it's covered in the tutorial because I'm totally blanking on where it is. You can also Google it. But yes, you can change basically everything. We're going to keep going with the tutorial and see. I'm like 90% sure we changed the font. If not, we'll Google it together and we'll look into it.
Out of the box. And let's make it a header large.
You can't accuse Dimmer for killing anything they wouldn't
nice.
touch
you know,
a
it
soul.
implies this is the title of our game. This is what matters.
I appreciate
and,
that.
Yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely. So in the main menu, we're going to make it so that you can start the game. So I've selected add a new node, and you can actually type in up here what you're looking for, which is really helpful when you're trying to find something. And we're going to add a button. And this button is going to be called start button. So rename the node there.
Dimmer only
and
touches
change the text
hearts.
to be
3 and
start.
eats pizza slices.
You can see this button's here. We'll drag it to the center. Just click and drag it if I can do it. There we go. And we'll just approximately put it in the center of the screen. Go back to our game. It's not there, right? Sometimes when you add a new node, you have to rerun the game. And you can actually hover over it and click it, and you'll see nothing really happens. So we've got our main menu scene. We've got a label node. We've got a button node. Now let's dive into a little bit more complicated topic, which is having parts of our game, nodes of our game, receive some sort of action, and then cause something in our game to change. And this is where we'll start to introduce coding. So when you have a node selected, you have the inspector, which we've dived into a little bit here and there. You can click this other tab called Node, and you're greeted with another sub-tab called Signals and Groups. Don't worry about groups yet. Let's focus on signals. Signals are events. They're an event system in Godot. So when something happens, it allows us to trigger code that.
Let's take a look at... I can't add text to it. I'm assuming to the button. So let us add child node button. And then we're gonna, I'm gonna make it bigger so I can just drag it more easily. In this text box right here, we're gonna type start, and that'll add text to the button. Again, this is where you're going to be editing the nodes. Oh, I used to go by Gaming Skull. Oh, that makes sense. But I realized today that gaming isn't going to get me anywhere. I mean, gaming can be fun. I don't think you need to necessarily cut it out of your life, but I totally support you changing your username to be whatever you think best represents you. It worked with Blender. Maybe can work with this. I don't know what you're referring to with something that worked with Blender. Can you explain it once again? Yeah. So if I am, let's add another button here. I can add child node, and I can search here for button. Oh, ChatGPT. Yes. Button. Click create. And then we have this button over here. I'm going to zoom in on it. we can click and drag it around. We can make it bigger with these. And then to add text, we're going to look on the right-hand side into this inspector panel, which is where we're going to be changing the properties of this node. And in here, we're going to type start. And I'm really zoomed in, so it's really pixelated. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, feel free to ask questions. The goal of this session, of really any of these sessions, is not for us to complete the tutorial. I use a tutorial so that we can get started in it. You can ask questions at the beginning. You can have someone help you along the way, and then you can finish it off on your own, because usually we don't finish these. And ChatGPT probably could answer some of your questions with this, because again, it was trained on the internet, so these docs were on the internet. But again, ChatGPT makes stuff up. It's often wrong, that sort of thing. So take it with a grain of salt, but I'm not going to tell anyone to not use it. Okay, I'm going to go back to the tutorial and we'll switch back and forth to answer questions again. Keep asking questions in chat.
Usually we don't finish this. Story of 90% of my project.
Signals associated with being a button, and then it has some other ones associated with other parts of its node that it inherits from. We're not worried about these other ones. What we're really worried about is pressed. You see this connect button? If you click it, we'll see this pop up, and it says scene does not have any script. So it can't be connected to any code because there's no code. So what we need to do is attach a script to main menu. Click this button up here, and it brings up this new dialog for attaching a script to a node. A script is our code. That's where we're going to type in program. You'll inherit from node 2D because main menu is node 2D. We'll just use the default template, that's fine. And we name it, we'll keep it snake case, and click create. This opens up and switches to our script editor up here. You'll see that because it's blue. If we click 2D, we're back to the 2D viewport. Click back to script, and we've got a few things going on. We've got a file interface for working with the scripts. We've got mainmenu.gd, which is the file we created, and that corresponds to this one down here. So you can double click this to open it. You can actually double click. If you double click a TSCN, it doesn't switch back, so you just have to know that in advance. But let's focus on this. We've got extends node 2D. This is what the script behavior gets out of the box. So anything that node 2D can do,
This is for those of you who are more experienced developers. This is inheritance from an object orientation perspective.
Can do in our code, which is great. And we've got two functions that already are added. Let's click this button and expand it, make it bigger. Because when I'm coding, it's nice to just have some space and be able to focus on the code. And we see two functions that start with underscores.
Okay, wait. Sorry to pause again, but 404 not found. Oh my God. Do not fail out of school because of this. I'm cleaning up the kitchen mess, so I'm going to be back in a minute. I look forward to seeing you back. But literally, do not fail out of school. Do not turn in your essay because of this. The recording's going to be here. The tutorial's going to be here. And we have a second stream on this, which is going to be on Friday. So it can wait. If you need to go, go. That goes for... Don't make me... Oh, darn it. It didn't... Okay, wait. Don't make me turn this car around. Don't make me go back there. Y'all better do your homework. Okay. Small thing that we made in a previous stream that I had an excuse to use there. Dimmer, you need to reduce how interesting your streams are. I'm staying. I mean, you can make your own choices. I trust you. It's Wednesday for you. Yeah, it's still Wednesday for me. It's 4:43 on a Wednesday for me right now. I know it's Thursday morning for y'all. Very early in the morning. Skiddy calling me crazy. Okay, let's continue watching this, but make sure you take care of yourselves, y'all.
Functions are bits of code that you can call over and over again to have it run multiple times. And Godot looks for a ready function that's prefixed with an underscore and a process function that's prefixed with an underscore. Ready is called once when the node enters the scene tree for the first time, right? That's a helpful comment. And pass just says, don't do anything. Process is called every frame. So your game's running in a loop. It's running over and over and over again. And it calls this function every single time. And it passes in the elapsed time since the previous frame, which can be used to make movement and other things frame rate independent, which don't worry about that if you don't know what that means. It's okay. We're going to write our first bit of code here. We're going to delete this line. And with the scripting language that Godot comes with is called GDScript. And it's its own programming language. It's a lot like Python. And we're going to type some commands into the ready function to make it do some things. So we're going to type print and not have typos. And then in quotations, and these are straight quotes, not curly quotes. When you're programming, quotations are straight quotes. And that is where we can insert a message that will get output. So we'll just say main menu ready. Save that, click the play icon to run our game again, and you'll see down here, main menu ready was output to the console log. If we changed it, run it again, it changes the message that's output. Okay, let's just double click and copy that. We'll paste it down here and we'll say processing. And we saved it. It automatically picked up our script change. We didn't have to rerun it. We had to rerun it before because ready's only called once. But processes run every function. So now we see it's out.
I do just want to say for those of you who are following along, you don't need to add these prints. This is just to show off how Godot uses these functions. Also, study for your exams, y'all. Oh my goodness. I know at least in the US, higher education is extremely expensive and you want to make the most of it. But also, I really appreciate you being here. So, study for your exams and also thanks.
Put over 1,000 times. Really noisy because our game's running in this fast loop, right? Like 90, 100 times per second. Let's get rid of that. Delete it, get rid of the quotes, and then just pass in delta. Because delta is a variable value, we don't have to put it in quotes. And it's actually a floating point number, aka a float. And it's usually 0.01-ish. And that's really noisy.
By the way, the YouTube video is a bit low quality, or maybe it's just my internet. It's running in 1080 for me. I can turn it up to 1440. My internet checked the resolution. Sorry, there's not much that I can do about that. But you can also view it on your own laptop or computer if that helps.
Noisy, not very helpful. So we'll just make that pass again. Now that's some very basic scripting. We're going to get into more advanced scripting soon enough. But we've got our game, we have our start button, doesn't do anything, but golly, our main menu is sure ready. Let's go back to start button, and let's go back to the 2D view, and click start button. And you'll see we're back to signals. Click pressed again, click.
Okay, this is where I'm going to switch back. We're going to implement this because we just reached a chapter marker. So we already created the button earlier. We're going to click on our button, and in our inspector, over on the right-hand side.
GD is for gadget files. Does it compile to an executable?
I believe .gd is for Godot script, for GD script. Does it compile to an executable? It is just done by... I don't know how it compiles. I honestly don't know that much about Godot's, like, inner workings, but basically when you export Godot, which we'll talk about later, we might not get to it in here, but the tutorial definitely will, so you can follow along with that after the streams. You export it to a runtime that can run on web or mobile or a console, and that deals with the running it. So Godot just deals with all of that for us. But 404 is asking, ooh, how did they add a script? Sorry for the off topic. No, it is not off topic at all. Ask all the questions you want. In here, we have these signals, which I think is a really cool way of thinking about this. I always really like working with these because, in essence, we're plugging two things together, and these are the different ports. So if you think about this as plugging, like, your phone into your computer, we are taking, this is our computer, and we're looking at all the ports, and we're like, ooh, do we want HDMI? Do we want USB? All that sort of stuff. And we have all these different conditions. So in this case, I don't remember what he used. Let's use pressed. So we're going to try adding a script to the pressed. So basically this is saying, oh, when the button is pressed, what do we want to do with it? What do we want to run? And it is then saying, hey, the scene, this node.td, does not contain any script. So we are going to create a script that is main menu. Oh, wait, sorry. I blanked out. Can you show how to add a script? I'm double checking. There we go. Attach script. Sorry about that. Let me double check what we're attaching the script to. So, okay, wait, he does type. Ugh, okay. He clicked the script icon. For some reason, it's frozen on me. Oh, golly, a lot of things just froze on me. My laptop is not happy with what's happening right now.
Connect.
Okay. I'm going to turn down that resolution a little bit. So we have our button.
The scene does not have any script, so it can't be connected to any code because there's no code. So what we need to do is attach a script to main menu.
Ah, okay. There's that button. I was using the right-click context menu, but yeah, there is this button right there to add a script. So he did that to main menu. Great. We have joints and rigid bodies. Okay, screw the essay. You do you. Okay, we're going to add a script. And we're going to call it title screen. We're going to create. Great. And this is what he did. So that was creating the script. And then just to restate what he said, ready is called when the node enters the scene screen for the first time, basically when it is instantiated. And then process is called every frame, and delta is the elapsed time since the previous frame. So in essence, every time that the game advances a frame, this function is called, and then delta works to allow us so that if the frames per second is changing, the game speed is not changing. You know, I really should get going because I'm not sure I can hold back the Ooga Booga, and I will end up making Stickman Shooter really. Okay. We're going to do two things. One, I'm going to switch to just talking, and we're going to talk for a sec, which hopefully will make it slightly more boring, so 404 will leave. Secondly, I'm going to reply to just ChatGPT it or something. So I mentioned before that, like, I don't want to tell anyone to not use ChatGPT, but I am going to warn you that ChatGPT is not as good of a tool as it seems at first glance. Again, I showed this yesterday. I tried making a script that would just download a YouTube video and convert it to an MP3, which is something that I kind of know how to do. But I was like, oh, I'll just have ChatGPT write it because I'm not looking to learn anything here. I've done something like this before. It'll just be really easy. It took me like 15 to 20 different going back and forth and being like, okay, I ran it and this thing's broken. Okay, new code. Okay, I ran it and this thing's broken. And if that is what you want to do, sure. But I strongly believe that ChatGPT is not as good of a tool as people think it is for actually generating anything. You'll notice that the times that I've used ChatGPT, I have used it as basically a like cheat code for a search engine, where I've tried Googling it first, and I've just gotten a bunch of like blog posts and things like that aren't actually giving me the answer that I'm looking for. Specifically, like yesterday, I was looking for a specific.
Face it, GPT sucks.
It really does. I was looking for like a very specific library, and I couldn't find an example of that wasn't weird because of the way that Google indexes things. So I asked ChatGPT, and then I Googled that and used that library's documentation to actually write the code. Using GPT as a generative model. Okay, this is the other thing. I will regurgitate what Will from Fellowship said for ChatGPT in an essay. GPT basically does a great job of writing words that really mean nothing. A lot of fluff, not a lot of content. I work on the Fellowship admissions team. I'm at the beginning of the process. You won't see me in any of the interviews, but I am reading essays. And there is a direct correlation between the release of ChatGPT and a decrease in the quality of essays. Because generally, I can speak roughly for Fellowship here. I'm not on the Fellowship team, so take everything that I say as like, oh, I've done this before, I work on this team. But if you have any big questions, ask the Fellowship team, ask in Discord and things like that. I know, at least me personally, I would rather have an essay that is slightly worse English and more passion and interest, and is someone saying like specifically what they want to be doing with the fellowship, why they are interested in computer science, telling their story, rather than a ChatGPT essay, which has great grammar, doesn't make any spelling mistakes, but also doesn't have any of that humanity to it, if that makes sense. And specifically with code, Ajaxon, right here, I get roughly 85 to 90% runnable code, and then it makes crap. And yeah, it totally does. And the thing is, when I was trying to make this script, I was just in a moment of like, oh, I just need something to do this, and I don't want to think. And I was like, oh, I can just turn my brain off, and it'll generate the code for me. Thank you, Skiddy. Brain. I always get distracted reading chat. Yeah, and I was wanting to turn my brain off, so I wasn't in a place to like be wanting to troubleshoot code. I didn't really want to write code at that point. So when I generated it, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. And then I would run it, and then I'm like, I don't want to go through this. And then I would ask it to run it again, back and forth. And it is that like 15 to 10% that just ruins everything. Dimmer, you work on fellowships?
Debugging ChatGPT code is harder than writing your own code.
Yeah. You'll know if any of you were here when ChatGPT first came out. I did some streams of like, oh, this is really cool. And then the longer I've sat with it, I've been like, wow, it looks really cool when you first run it, because it is this novelty of you ask it a question and it generates something for you. But then the longer you sit with it, they're just like the less useful it actually is. So I will 100% say that Google is a terrible search engine, and use anything that can get you the results that you need, but don't ask it to necessarily make things for you. That is my slight tangent over, and sadly it was not boring enough to get 404 to leave. I might need to have like a secondary camera that is just like watching some paint dry that I'll need to switch to. I'm working on some new experiments where ChatGPT 4 reads images of formulae, then explains them quite well. I mean, again, you do you. I just think generally all of these AI projects are based on hype and not anything else. LMAO, watching paint dry with you won't be less interesting. I'll hang around, but I'll stop following. Okay. Do what you can to take care of yourself. Make sure you get enough sleep. Cherry-picked examples. I mean, you do you. There's also a really big ethical question around these. Again, I'm going to direct everyone, if you're interested in the ethics of generative AI, to watch. There is a video that is made by PhilosophyTube on YouTube that is like the ethics of AI. It was just released a little bit ago, and she did a just truly wonderful job breaking it down. It is... How do I describe this? There's some provocative costuming. So I wouldn't necessarily watch it in a work or school environment. That provocative costuming has a very good point and makes a very strong point, and it's very important,
AI
I think.
Costs more than what your car and house needs to run in a year.
Yeah.
It is very dark shade of gray.
Yeah. It is, and it actually helped me kind of reconsider some of the things. A lot of people are talking about how AI is going to end the world, and those are the same people who their personal wealth is directly tied to whether or not these AI companies continue to get funding and explode in these ways. So what these people who own these AI companies are doing is, in essence, arguing like, don't tax me, don't like regulate me, like AI is gonna end the world, so you better do what we say because we're the experts. I'm gonna drop the link in chat. Basically, it is like the argument that all of these AI systems are running on like hardware that is built by people in poor living conditions, and those resources are mined by people in poor living conditions, and it is run on electricity that is made using the oil that is made with poor living conditions. And all of the data that is training these AIs needs to be labeled by people who are often horrifyingly, people in like refugee camps and places like that, where like all of this is based on cheap labor to subsidize the existence of AI. And seeing it all laid out like that, none of it was necessarily a surprise, but it was definitely like, especially if you're in the tech space like we are, it's easy to get caught up in the hype of it. And it was a really grounding way of being like, there's like a really depressing reality surrounding all of these things of just like, oh, it exists within a capitalist system. And the tagline at the end is there's no ethical computation under capitalism. Some of y'all might have heard the phrase, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Yeah. And there's no ethical computation under capitalism. 24/7 running of massive compute that costs money in the first place, money to run and maintain. Yeah, there's just a whole bunch of things. And she makes a really good like argument of how AI systems are designed to enact systems of control and power that are already in place on minorities. It's really just like a lot of really depressing and bad stuff. So I would highly encourage y'all to think about your own morals and your own values and where these generative AI systems lie within those, and see if you really need them in your life. I switched over to Brave search over Google search to see if that made things any better. And I'm trying to like really limit the amount of generative AI that I let into my life, because there are a lot of hucksters who, again, their personal wealth depends on this hype machine that's going to tell everyone that AI is the next big thing, so you better give them money. And I just don't think that's true. That being said, well, that was a lot for an essay. Yeah, that being said, let's go back to game development. I just wanted to say something about that because it's something that I believe really strongly about. And also, I feel like, again, when you're in the tech space, it's really easy for people to just keep telling you about the hype and to keep encouraging you to like keep going down this path, that this is the future. And there's like a whole humanities side to it that I know, at least when I was really deep in computer science, I frequently missed, that I thought code could change the world. Okay. We have ready and process, and then we are about to learn how to link these signals. Let's go back to our tutorial.
Click this button up here, and it brings up this new dialog for attaching a script to a node. A script is our code. That's where we're going to type in program. You'll inherit from node 2D because main menu.
Also, I just want to call out, yeah, NFT and crypto was a future once, turned out to be just hype. That is exactly how I feel about the AI that we're experiencing right now. MLH has a lot of Web3 sponsors, but I personally do not believe in a widespread use case for Web3 technologies on an individual scale.
There's node 2D. We'll just use the default template, that's fine. And we name it, we'll keep it snake case, and click create. This opens up and switches the start button, and let's go back to the 2D view and click start button. And you'll see we're back to signals. Click press again, click connect, and we're greeted with a nicer pop-up this time. It lets us connect it, and you can select a node that has a script that you want to connect it to. We're going to connect the pressed signal to...
Really quickly, I just want to respond to 404, what you just said. I agree to it to like an extent. There are just a lot of underlying layers to the argument, such as smaller generative AI projects, such as training off data and art of other people, such as how these generative AI technologies can really bring the power in the hands of the people and change the media around it. Us, but also how it can screw artists and creative jobs. There's just so much nuance to it. It's an amazing topic. I agreed with that at the beginning, and I no longer agree with that now, because the argument of bring the power into the hands of the people, the argument is that you as an individual can now create like your own anime, and you could never do that before because it would be so much work. And a lot of people will argue like, well, the average person could never create art, so that's why these generative AI systems are democratizing art. And then the argument to that is like, just pick up a pencil. And now I will be the first person to say, I don't have a whole lot of art skill, but also I have found one of the things that I've been doing, I haven't in a few months, but for a while I was like I'm going to drop another link here. If you are from a computer science background and you are looking to get into art and you don't know how, I'm going to drop this link. This is called Drawbox. It is a program that is completely free, that is designed around the basics of drawing. And doing that has really helped me, especially at the beginning, learn how to transition my brain from like a computer science and STEM mindset to like an art mindset, because the way that you treat yourself around each is very different. And that has been really important to me. And I think something like that actually democratizes art, actually democratizes creation, because I use this. It's actually great. It's incredible, because when you're asking an AI to make something, it is not actually democratizing art, because I think there's something so deeply human about making art. And there is this, I think, in my opinion, it is propagated by like social media and wanting to see those numbers go up, that I am not immune to. I want to be very clear, of needing to professionalize everything. That if you are going to make something, it needs to be on the level of the people who do it professionally. And that includes art. And I just think that that's not true. That like, if you make a little doodle and if making that doodle made you happy, if you had this idea of like, what if my camera was made of pickles? I have a camera in front of me. And you wanted to make that, you could ask a generative AI and it would give you an image, or you could doodle it. And I think there are a few small use cases where people will say, well, I have this idea for this bigger project and I can't hire an artist and I can't do this myself. And generative AI will allow me to do that. And I think there are arguments there, but those are like when you're trying to like sell something, you have like a professional project on a low budget. And that's a very different thing from democratizing anything. Like, it doesn't actually democratize anything because of all the people it exploits along the way. Anyway, art can be very therapeutic and has helped me to rethink many things. Yeah, I think the idea of AI democratizing art and writing and these sort of things that used to just be like, all humans would sing and dance and write and draw and make art and all of these different things. And now in the world that we live in, those are professions. And I know that I have felt like I cannot do those things if I cannot do it professionally. And that is a thing that I'm actively trying to work against. I am actively trying to include those things in my life, even if I am not the best at them, because they bring joy. And I'm not great at it. I'm not saying that I am, but that's something that I'm trying to do. And I think that has helped me to pop the AI bubble in my head, where I kept being told that I couldn't make art on my own, but I could ask this AI and it creates pretty picture. And that is democratizing. Like for me, Blender is a hobby, and creating an animation takes a toll on my laptop really bad. So what I can do is reduce the number of frames and use AI to interpolate it. Personally, as like a tool, like a computer, like an editor software that helps me make it. Two things here. One, yes, there's like a really big difference between generative AI that just takes a prompt and these sort of tools, because those tools have existed for a really long time. And speaking of specifically around animation, I'm going to drop another link. This is by Noodle, another great YouTuber who is an animator, talking about how smoother animation is not better animation, talking about AI enhanced, which was a huge video trend a while ago. And it talks about the interpolation tools that already exist there for animators, and how it is, when it is a tool that is used by people to create a certain thing within their creative vision to like add on, great. But the thing is that these models that are getting all the hype are the ones that are meant to do everything. We are capitalizing everything. Now every other thing is a business just for sustenance and material and monetary gains. I entirely agree. And I don't have a solution for it, but it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah. So those are, I think I've now linked like 3 videos, 2 videos in Drawbox, of just like these resources that I think have really helped me to pop this bubble that I had in my head of the ways that AI would change things. Hashtag ethics class at 3 a.m. Also, I would highly encourage you, if you are at an institution and actively learning and you can fit an ethics class in, to take it. I think that would be a good thing in the modern age. That is a lot of my friends. 404 is just laughing at me. One of the things that has really helped me is all of my friends are in the humanities, and talking with them has just completely shifted my perspective, as opposed to when I was surrounded by only engineers. Again, I got really caught up in the hype bubbles that are in tech. The day Indian schools provide an ethics class, that's the day I learned to fly. I'm sorry about that. That sucks. Yeah, that's hard. Anyway, this has all been... We don't have open classes? Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, so you've just like a set program that you take. Do y'all know about edX and MIT OpenCourseWare? So, wow, that's really hard. Okay, so I've gotten one yes. For those of you who don't know, edX is a bunch of programs from mostly American universities that take some of their classes and put them online. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. It's a weird thing. And MIT OpenCourseWare is that for MIT. Every developer knows about it. I mean, that makes sense, but also I needed to learn about it at some point. Basically what I'm saying is, if you are interested in it, probably after you graduate, because I'm not going to say take another class while you're actively in school, because that's always hard. If you're interested in this, I think that could be worthwhile, especially in the age that we're getting into. Okay, so I am going to call this conversation here right now, because I want to make sure that we can go back on topic. I think this is very valuable, and I always want to talk about this sort of thing on stream, because I think it is good to like have a space to talk about all of this. I think all free, and then you need to pay for the certificate. There was a class that I started to take where it was supposedly all free, and then you need to take the certificate. But then like half of the videos in the later sections were paid, and it was weird. I'm going to set a 5-minute timer for a bio break for people. We're going to stand up, move around, cleanse our palates, and then we're going to get right back into game development. So I'm going to put that timer on screen. Take care of yourselves. We'll be right back. Hello, 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 y'all. One sec, just replying to a message on Slack. We'll be right back. Okay, hello, hello, hello. 404, sorry for not seeing your friend message. I don't really use Discord outside of when I'm working, so I am not really checking that. It is not a personal thing by any means. Hello, hello, welcome back. We have like maybe 30 minutes left, so a good chunk of time to be able to do some more work on this. Again, we're following this tutorial so that even if and when we do not finish it on stream, because there's no way that we are going to, you can continue it on your own. We are going to have a second stream on this. It's going to be a part 2 that is going to be on Friday. What time on Friday? It is going to be Friday at... I'm looking at the schedule and I'm totally missing things. It's going to be the 20th at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Okay. With that, let's go ahead and get right back into this.
Main menu, which is our root node, and we're going to call this function on start button pressed whenever the press
signal
signal
Can we hang out after
occurs.
the stream
So
dimmer just for talks if you're free? Also, it's red for you, right?
It is Wednesday for me right now. Can we hang out after the stream? I mean, I will, like, we're gonna, let's do this. I'm gonna create a poll. Okay. We have a question going. End 5 to 10 minutes early to chat. So if we do this, normally I would go right to like 350, 355 with like content for learning Godot. But if y'all want, we can end a couple minutes early just to talk. Type 1 in Twitch chat for yes, 2 in Twitch chat for no. I'll give you a couple seconds for this here, and then I'll just leave it up while we continue to watch this tutorial.
For us and says pass. Okay, well, let's get rid of pass and make it do something. We can print and we'll say start button pressed. Okay. Great. Every time we click the start button, whether we click on it, we can actually press the space bar when it's focused, and it outputs it every single time. That's pretty useful. Let's get into adding our second scene, which we'll call level 1, and we'll make it so that when the start button is pressed, we switch to our scene, our first game, our first level in our game. So that was just a quick intro, quick recap to, we added a scene, a Node 2D scene. We added a label to display some text. We added a button that we wired up with a signal. All of this, while it seems boring, is a really great intro into the concepts we're going to add in our game. So our next step is to add a new scene. You can click this plus button here, add new scene. We're going to make it a 2D scene.
Okay, that looks like the end of this chapter. Yep, adding level 1, switching scenes. And I'm going to finish the poll. And it looks like our yeses won. So we're going to end this content at around 5:40, 5:45. So we just have a little bit of time to talk before we need to go at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So we should be able to basically do roughly the same amount of content, but we'll also have some time to just hang out. With that, let's do what we just learned. So we have our button, and in our node, we are going to add, in our button signal pressed, and we're going to add it to main menu. And you'll notice that, hey, it just added another function here. And he just added a print button pressed. And we're just going to add that so I can test to make sure that this is working. We're going to hit play. And when I hit start, we see button press down there, which means, hey, we've done everything thus far. With that, let's go back and continue watching. Again, ask any questions that you have in chat, and I'll do my best to answer them.
A 2D scene, and let's go and rename it level 1 and click save. It automatically names it nicely, so we just save it, and now we've got level 1, and we've got our main menu. Let's show you how to run a scene independently from the whole game. So like before, we're pressing the play button, and our start button logs there. Great. Now we have level 1. We can click this button here, which on my Mac it's Command R, but the shortcut's different on Windows and Linux. You can just play the scene that's currently active in the viewport editor. So now we don't see main menu, we see level 1. And we can add a label just for our purposes, and we'll call it level 1, and we'll just keep that in the upper left corner. I might drag it down just a little bit. Now we see we're in level 1. You can close that, right, and just click that. And this is a really great way to test a level that you're building or test a scene that you're working on without having to boot up the whole game, go through the same flow, and get there. This will become more apparent as we work on multiple levels, but for now, just know that this is how we're going to launch level 1. This is how we launch the whole game. And then if we were to focus back to main menu here and click run current scene, it runs the main menu because it's our current scene. All right, so now we have multiple scenes. Let's go ahead and make it so our start button in the code, you can click this and it brings you to the attached script. Instead of printing start button pressed, let's make it switch to level 1. All right, so we'll delete that and we call something called get tree. Remember how I was saying a scene is a tree? Well, we want to get the tree and we want to say change scene to file, and as you start typing with GDScript, it will help autocomplete. We see change scene to file, change scene to path. Well, let's click change scene to file. You just press enter, you don't click it, sorry, I misspoke. And it automatically starts to autocomplete our available scenes, and we'll change it to level 1. Go ahead and save that. All right, run our game, and click start. We're in level 1. Pretty cool, right? This, again, I know this isn't the game yet, but this is like, you gotta learn to crawl before you can walk. And this stuff is going to be foundational, and we'll see at the end of the game how we're going to tie this scene switching in and make it work with doors in our gameplay. But we're so close to gameplay. But before gameplay, let's make it so we can go back to our main menu. So in here, we've got our level 1 scene, and it doesn't do a whole lot yet, right? Let's, instead of adding a button to go back to the main menu, let's make it so that if you press the escape key, it springs you back to the main menu. This is quite nice, whether you're pausing the game or for whatever purpose, but for now, we'll just make it go back to main menu with the escape key. And this gets into input maps and listening to player input. What you do.
I'm actually going to pause here and implement this because I see a transition point here. So what we just did, there we go. Okay. You'll notice that occasionally I frequently am doing this to switch between windows, and occasionally it freezes and I need to turn my mouse off and back on again. Okay. So we are going to create a new scene. And the scene, we are going to create a 2D scene, and we're going to save it as level 1. And in here, we are just going to add a label. And in that label, we're just going to name it level 1. So we know. With that then, now in our title screen, in that script, which you can either get to by clicking script here, or what you'll notice that I just did is I clicked the script, like little icon next to main menu. We have on button pressed, we're going to get underscore tree, and then dot change scene to file level 1. And now if we take a look and we run and we press start, hey, it takes us to level 1. So that is how we will switch between levels, which I think is super important to know. So you can have different menus and levels inside of your game and different rooms inside of a building if that's how you're going to set things up, and all of these sort of different things. That's simple enough, in my opinion. Again, I really like how this tutorial is going through it because he's not just explaining what buttons to press, but the why. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And we're going to keep going.
You should go to project settings. This opens up a whole interface of things. What we want to do is go to input map. This is where we'll configure mapping player input to behaviors in our game. There's nothing here. You see show built-in actions. You can click this and view what Godot has baked in, but it's not recommended to use what Godot has baked in. Instead, we'll define our own. So toggle that off and don't worry about it. You can filter with these, but again, don't worry about that. Focus in on add new action. And we're going to call an action called return to main menu. Click add. I keep them snake case named, just like a lot of things in Godot and GDScript. And you'll see it's created, and you'll see a dead zone. Don't worry about dead zone. That's for things like triggers and analog sticks where you don't want the action to trigger unless it passes a certain threshold. So just leave it as is. Click this plus button. Brings up a new interface where it says listening to input. So I just press the J key. It goes, oh, okay, you want to map the J key, and it finds it automatically. But I want to make it the escape key, so I press the escape key. And you can even scroll through here and see all the options. So if you, for some reason, don't have the device you want, like we can make it start button, right, for a gamepad. You can type it in and filter there. But we're going to keep it escape. And then you can add modifiers, which we're not going to do, right? We're just going to say escape does it. And you click OK. Also, you can see the Godot UI is kind of bugging out. Ignore that. Hopefully that's fixed in the future. Okay, so we made it escape. Well, hey, I really like using a controller. I think it's really important from the get-go to support controllers and keyboard. And Godot makes that so easy. So let's go back to filter input and type in start. You can then go and select joypad buttons, and Nintendo calls it plus, but everyone else calls it start, and just click OK. So now, whenever escape is pressed, or the start button's pressed, if we check for input from our user, it will come up as return to main menu.
So I just want to pause here and continue to talk about how important this is. And just like you just said in chat, wow, this is so easy. Yeah. This means that if you're writing something in like Pygame, you need to check for each input, and then upon input you run code. Whereas this, it deals with collecting those inputs for you, and you get to group them into sections. So when we are looking for an input for return to main menu, we just check for if return to main menu was pressed. And that can be a keyboard, that can be a game controller, that can be, I don't know, VR, that can be any sorts of different devices, and it can be a lot of accessibility devices too, making your game more accessible. And then Godot handles all that for you. That is not something that you need to actively be working to implement, which I always think is wonderful. So it just makes your life easier. Skadi, thanks for introducing us to Godot Dimmer. I always delayed my plan to make a game, but today at least got started and made a scene. I'll watch the rest of the stream recording later. I'm gonna go to sleep now. I love your sessions, but I'm so tired and it's 3 a.m. Yeah, go to sleep. Take care of yourself. So glad that you are like here and that you watched and that you liked it. And yeah, take a look at the recording. And also, again, take a look at the link to this tutorial. You can search this on YouTube or click any of the links that we've dropped in chat so you can follow this on your own. I didn't see any touch screens like for a laptop. So the reason it's not looking specifically for touch screens is because the way that touch targets work is an entirely separate thing. It won't treat that like a button press. It'll treat that like clicking on something. So you'll notice when we did our button, yeah, our touch screen is like a mouse. When we did a button, we had on click. So that is what we would set up. Even if you were creating this for like a touchscreen device, you would add a joystick or something like that on screen, and you would have the user interact with that like you would a mouse. That's how you would treat things. Yeah, thank you so much for coming, Skitty. Okay. With that, I'm going to hit play again, and we're going to finish out this section.
For this input map. So great, we can click close. Now in level 1, let's attach a new script. We'll call it level1.gd. Create it. Let's, just for funsies, let's just add a print. Level 1 loaded, or level 1 ready. Great. Click that, run it. Click start. We see level 1's ready. Great. Just verify our script's working. You can delete that if you want, but I'll keep it for now. And delete the process function. We're not going to use that right now. What we're instead going to do is we're going to type func. You can type _input, and it starts to autocomplete. And see that input event? That's what we want. That is a callback that Godot will call. we'll call this function in the code we write whenever an event occurs. And an event can be anything like moving your mouse or pressing a controller button or a keyboard button. And as always, we can just print it and see what it is, just to see what happens. It's this printing is an illustrative way to just see what's going on. So you see every time I move my mouse, you see down there in my screen it says input event key spacebar, pressed and then released, and Godot's tracking all this input. And you can listen to it if you want. But we don't want to listen to any of it, right? We want to see if it was the action we just described. So we'll say event dot is action pressed, and then in quotes, we put our action. And you see the UI underscore, those are the ones Godot has built in, but we see return to main menu. You can just press enter.
So again, this is wonderful because by checking for return to main menu, we don't need to actually worry about what devices the user's actually using. We just need to see if it's classified and what we were able to change on the fly in the UI.
Automatically wraps it in quotes. And then we can print that. That will say whenever the escape key is pressed, or click start. So whenever an action occurs, if it's the action that we're tracking, it outputs true or false. Was it pressed? Well, I just pressed the escape key and it says true, and then it was released and then it's false. And when I was moving my mouse, it was tracking it too. So what we want to do is add a condition. Conditioning codes are saying when something is true, then we'll execute this code. So we'll say if event is action pressed, then you put a colon at the end of this condition, press enter, and it automatically indents. Then we'll say
Might remind you of Python.
Return to main menu action press. Now if we go back to our game, or we'll just go and run our scene. Sometimes I quit the game when I don't have to, and that's just like a bad habit. But I just press the escape button, and you'll see down there it's being output. I've got a PS4 controller here. See, PS4 controller. If I press the start button, it also outputs it down there. Great. Okay, well, let's reuse some code we already wrote. We'll go back to main menu. We'll copy this here, bring it back to our level 1 script. Let's get rid of that print and just paste in our code there. But instead of saying level 1, we'll just say main menu. Save that. Now if we press escape key, we're back in our main menu. This switching scenes, while we switched from main menu to level 1, and that is sort of, not super fun, you could imagine though that when an event occurs in our game that, we want to switch to level 2. So now we can at least get back to our main menu, we can start our game and switch between them. Great. Okay, now it's time to actually make level 1.
Okay, that's where we're going to pause and we're going to implement this. So what we did to start with is we went into Godot. Project settings, and then input map, and we're going to add a new action that is, I don't remember what, let's say return to main menu. And then on this, we're going to press that plus, and we're going to add escape. And then just for funsies, we're going to add start as well. Great. So those are our two. You'll notice that the UI is still bugging out for me. And those are our two different inputs that are now under return to main menu. And in our level 1 script, we haven't made a level 1 script yet. If we make a level 1 script, I'm just going to leave those there because they're passed. It doesn't actually change anything. We're going to func. Just going back to see what he called it.
And when I was moving my mouse,
underscore input. I forgot about this. So underscore input events. In this case, the underscore here is, for those of you who are used to object-oriented places, it is a stylistic thing. It is in the style of Godot that anything that is with an underscore is private, whereas anything without an underscore is public. So in this case, underscore input is a private function. That's not, to my knowledge, implemented in the same way that an object-oriented thing is. Again, I think it's just stylistic, but that's why there's an underscore there. Underscore events, and then if event dot is action pressed, and then the action that we're looking for here is return to main menu. Then, just like in Python, we're going to add a colon, and we are going to do get underscore tree dot change scene to file title screen. Gonna save this. We're gonna run, and you'll notice we can press start, and then when we press escape, we go back to our main screen. Maybe it's related to class. Private meaning local versus global. Not local versus global. Well, local versus global is a form of this. Yes, maybe it's related to class, like in Java. It is entirely related to class, like in Java. Private is in another, if I don't feel comfortable enough to be able to explain the entirety of object orientation, but in essence, something that is private, a private function or a private variable, cannot be read by other objects. It is something that is like level 1 only here. Yeah, it works in that way, in the same way of local versus global, but when something is local, it ceases to exist. So if I were to have a local variable inside of a while loop, it is local versus global in that it ceases to exist once the while loop is done. Whereas something that is private continues to exist within the object, but cannot be edited from outside of it. So there is that distinction there. I know I'm not giving the best explanation. If you haven't taken an object-oriented programming class before, I am not the one qualified to teach you object-oriented programming. And also, you don't need to know it for this. I was just explaining why that has an underscore there. So we now are accepting input from the keyboard. We're switching between scenes. We have buttons that work. We have all of these things. Now, like you just said, we're going to get into actually creating the game itself, which I think is wonderful, which is, you can see the label here, building a level with a tile map, which for those of you who have not done game development before, is a super useful skill to learn in terms of how you actually build levels in a way that is repeatable and has tooling. The scope of that variable is only limited to that function or class or object. It is not visible to other functions or classes or object, while global is visible to all. That's a pretty good explanation. Okay. With that, let us continue to watch the tutorial. Again, feel free to ask any questions in chat and we'll pause and talk about it. But without further ado, I'm actually also going to drop this link in chat one more time because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, yes, we're going to be using sprites that are linked in the description. And those sprites are here, which you'll notice is licensed with Creative Commons CC0. For those of you who don't know about the different Creative Commons licenses, stick around because I'm going to be doing a stream on all the different Creative Commons licenses and open source licenses and what all they mean later this week. I believe that's going to be on Saturday. So yeah, I dropped the YouTube link in chat again because those are where we're getting the resources for this. With that, let's continue.
Get back to our main menu, we can start our game and switch between them. Great. Okay, now it's time to actually make level 1. We don't have any image assets, we don't really have much going for us right now. So let's go ahead and find some assets. I'm gonna go to my web browser, and I'm at kenny.nl. Kenny is a creator of public domain game assets, and they make games and tools too. So click into assets, and you'll find all sorts of things, from platformers to 3D models. What we're gonna do is search for 1-bit. And there is a 1-bit platformer pack. We're gonna go ahead and use this to make our game. Because it's public domain, using the Creative Commons 0 license, we can use it in our game. We could even charge commercially for our game. You don't even have to give assets. You don't even have to give credit to Kenny, but I think it's really important to give credit, even if something's in the public domain. So we'll make sure we properly give Kenny credit too. So let's download. Donate if you can. Download the file and then open it and unzip it. You'll see in here a bunch of files. In particular, you'll see the sample, which is kind of like a 2D platformer level. We'll make something along those lines. You'll see a preview of the images, and you'll see some folders. Tiles, which are individual tiles that make up what's known as a tile map. A tile map is a collection of sprites in one image, so it's more efficient for the operating system and computers to take it, load it into memory, and then slice out segments of it. And so imagine, all these little rectangles in here. We'll just cut them out and display them and duplicate them in our game, and we'll make our character move, and just like old flipbook animations, we'll change the animation based upon what's happening. So in the tile map folder, you'll see 4 different options. The one we want, you see packed. Packed means there's no spacing between each of these. but you'll see the one that's not packed. There's this 1 pixel between each tile. We want the one that has 1 pixel between each tile, but we want, and let's use the one with the, let's use transparent actually. I think that will treat us better. So you want the one that's not packed, that has the gap between them, and click that, drag it, go to Godot, make sure you're not expanded, and drag it into the res area, your file system. So Godot just imported it, and we can see it here. We could take this and just drag it into our level 1 and have this texture here. And you'll see in our scene, we've got a texture 2D with this here. And if we run our game, I should have just clicked run scene, you'll see this image is displayed. And yeah, we can make it bigger and warp it and do all kinds of things to it, but that's not particularly interesting, aside from we know that it's in our game. So let's go and delete this. Okay. Now what we want to do is set up our level, and we'll do that by adding a new node for our tile map. So go in here, click add node. We'll just type in tile map to easily find it. Click create. Now this brings up a whole brand new interface, which is why we didn't start here, because this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated. Over here you'll see tile map, you'll see tile set, and then this opened up down here, which is our tile map editor. So we want to create a new tile set from that image we created. So click this drop down and click new tile set. Then click this area and you'll see here that we've got properties for our tile set. Then what we can do is in here, we're going to go and add our image to the tile set. So you need to click the tile set down here. It says no tile set source created. Click the plus button. We're going to do an atlas. An atlas will represent the texture that we'll use from our game. So click into here.
So based on the poll that we did earlier, we wanted to take a couple minutes at the end to just chat. So we are going to watch this, but I'm not going to implement this. We're going to watch this and then we're going to watch it again next stream. So we're going to finish out looking at how we create this tile map, which will be another like 4 or 5 minutes. And then we're just going to talk.
And click quick load, and that shows the options. We have icon SVG, which comes with the game out of the box, and we have monochrome tile map transparent. Click open. The atlas's texture is modified. Would you like to automatically create tiles in the atlas? Click yes. And then Godot tries to automatically map them. Let's click this button to make it bigger, and you can see that things are a bit off. These orange lines don't line up with our map because we have gaps. So we're going to name this, we're just going to call this tile map, kind of a generic name. And then separation. We're going to make it 1 and 1. And now you'll see that everything is lined just nice. And it's a 16 pixel by 16 pixel grid. If we change this, you'll see it'll throw it off. So depending if you were using a different tile set, you would see how large is each tile set and set it accordingly. There's also an option for texture padding, which tries to help it, but since we have the spacing, we'll just leave it checked on, but that's an option that's there that you might want to mess with if you use a different tile set. A different tile map image. Okay, you might notice some of these are hidden.
Yeah, automatic mapping is incredibly cool.
If you just click them when we're in the tile set editor, it'll re-enable them. For some reason, Godot detected them as, I guess, being disabled. So click those and just drag over it. Ideally, that shouldn't have happened. It does it for empty ones, but it appeared to do it for some that have sprites in it. So if you saw those faded out, just...
So you say like a giant sprite sheet. A tile set and a sprite sheet use the exact same technology, and you'll actually notice in the corner down there are, if we zoom in, enhance, are our sprites. So it is exactly the same technology and the same like way of thinking about things as a sprite sheet. And our sprite sheet is included on the same thing as all of our tile mapping.
Drag over them in the tile set editor. And that should make it better. So now we see here, they're all available. And you can just click the arrow button and select a tile. Like let's select this one and then draw a pencil and we can just drag it. Let me zoom in a bit. And we're just drawing it. And that looks pretty good. Now you may have noticed that's a little blurry. So let's try to fix that and make it not blurry. So what's happening is that our tile map texture is like, it's scaling, but we don't want it to scale because it's pixel art. So what we want to do is in the texture, in the filter, it's using inherent, which we don't want. We want it to be nearest. So that says, instead of trying to do some fancy scaling, just do nearest. And we're setting that texture for a tile map. So that changes it just for this imported texture, but let's change it for every texture we import in the future, because we might, add more images in the future. So in the general project settings, if you type in texture and click this default texture filter, see how it's linear? We want it to be nearest because we're making a pixel art game. So click close. And now if we were to go and if we make this inherent, it's already setting it properly. And something else we can do is in the import, we can even go ahead and just re-import that just to make sure that it's proper. But everything seems to be good. Now if we run our scene, we'll see our level is being drawn. Kind of neat, right? Okay, so we've got our tile map. Let's click that again. You have to focus that node to draw on it. And let's just draw a couple more things. So we'll draw an edge here. We'll draw this edge here. We'll zoom out a bit.
So I'm going to pause here because I think this is where we're going to pause and stop for today. And we're going to pick this up on Friday when we continue this. But the reason why that is so cool specifically is because it allows you to build out levels super easily just by drawing on a grid that Godot has already generated for you, and Godot has already imported all of your things from your tile map, and there are tons of free tile maps out there on the internet for you to use. He showed Kenny as an example. On Friday, I found some examples that I'm going to show y'all to give to you as well. It's all extremely useful for building this sort of game. Anything that's 2D, you can usually break down into a grid. And if you can break it down into a grid, you can just draw using that grid. And it makes level creation, in my opinion, a lot more fun. So that is a thing that exists that Godot makes super easy. We will again talk about implementing that in our own version. And we'll actually create this ourselves when we pick this up on Friday. But for now, we are going to end out the stream with a little bit of chatting. Again, I'm going to drop the link to this video. I know that I'm consistently doing that, but I just want to make sure that y'all have it. And actually, I'm going to see if I can add that to the YouTube video. Oh, Banana's in the room. Hi, Banana. For those of you who don't know, Banana is my cat. If I edit, I can add the tutorial we are following is boop. Okay, theoretically now in the description of the video recording of this should have that linked in it as well. So those are the resources that you have. Again, we're going to pick this up again on Friday, but for now, let's just chat for a little bit to close out. I had a question earlier. How did you find the profession you loved, and how did you know it liked you and interested you? So I do just want to say, so all of you know, I am 20 years old. I do not have everything figured out. And I especially don't feel like I have a career or a profession figured out. Next month is Global Hack Week, and it's career focused. And I am not planning on streaming really at all that month because I am not planning on or wanting to go into a career in tech anymore. Originally, I aspired to work in tech, and I realized that that isn't necessarily what I want anymore. I like programming, I like solving puzzles, I like doing those things, but the tech industry itself, I've had some experiences working tech jobs that just they were really difficult in a lot of ways. The expectations that are placed on tech workers long-term, my brother is a developer at Amazon, and watching him talk about his experience, he is doing really well there. He really likes it, but hearing him talk about his job as like your traditional big tech developer, it was very hard for me to be able to imagine myself doing that. So I am still at a point where I don't know. I know that I love doing this sort of thing. I love live streaming. I love community engagement. And I recently just got a part-time job doing this sort of work for a local place in my community, doing production stuff. And that's incredibly cool. And really, I have no idea what I want to do or what I'm interested in. But I am just, I don't know, I'm following the things that make me excited. And also, I understand that there is like a level of privilege in that. Now, y'all don't know a whole lot about my personal life, very deliberately. And I'll say I don't necessarily have a whole lot of support or resources. But yeah, I think being lost is what is to be expected and is what is normal. And especially talking to all of my friends who are like around this age, like, I don't know, I see a world in which there used to be, you would get a career, you would work for one company, you would get a pension, and you would be set. And that doesn't seem to be the world that we live in. And we're looking at the changes in big tech. Big tech used to be that way, where you would get a job at a big tech company and you'd be set. But with all of the layoffs and restrictions and the way that big tech is changing the way that it treats its employees, it's becoming like every other industry. And what that means is that you don't necessarily have one career your entire life. And while that is like exciting from a perspective of like being able to change things, it's also really hard. Yes, he works at Amazon. And again, he really likes it. He's really good at his job. It works for him, but talking to him, I could not see it working for me. So yeah, I'm quite lost. And currently my goal is just to get jobs that allow me to be able to like pay my rent and survive, that I feel are exciting and align with my values. And really right now I'm looking for like jobs that are engaged with my local community, that I can like help people around me and be involved, because yeah, I couldn't see myself working for Amazon, Facebook, Meta, etc. That was what I aspired to for a really long time. And that's what I was really trying to do for so long. And then I realized that in pushing myself to do that, I was losing touch with myself, that I was becoming a person who maybe could be a good developer, but I wouldn't be happy. Startups and smaller companies seem to be where it's at for more human-centric culture. Yeah, exactly. But also that depends on the startup. That depends on culture. Like, it's all of these things. If you like development, go for it. I'm currently not a student. Again, y'all don't know a whole lot about my personal life, but a bunch of things came up, and it's hard to be a student when you don't know where you're going to sleep at night. So I couldn't be a student anymore. So I'm still planning on going back to school eventually, but I'm not a student right now. And that's another thing that is scary in this world. It's all, I don't know, it's all overwhelming. It's all scary. And I think that the best thing that we can do is to just like learn to be able to sit with that and make meaningful connections with the people around us. And I'm trying to be a lot more engaged in my local community and kind of look towards a pre-late stage capitalist past of like, how did people find meaning in their lives, and trying to find meaning in that way, rather than, I used to think if I find a job first, then I can work on finding meaning. But I learned, just like some of y'all, I wanted to be a software engineer, and then I wasn't happy on a personal level, and that really impacted my ability to like do all of the things that I needed to do. I want to become a game streamer, but I'm concerned I won't be able to make it. Should I try to buy a gaming PC? I'm going to link you to a video by Ludwig Ogren. And the video, he's of course clickbaited the heck out of the title. But I'm gonna try opening this up here. Ludwig was one of the, if not the biggest streamer on Twitch for a bit, and then he's now switched to YouTube. I do just want to show this. This is Ludwig, who is a professional streamer, who is very huge. This is his official advice on becoming a live streamer. Quit. I highly, highly recommend you watch this video, because this is a thing that I have thought about myself. And it is a thing that I do, that I love doing. I love interacting with y'all. And also, I don't think it's something that I'd want to do as like a full-time job, because it is extremely hard and it's extremely competitive. And he talks about that here. If that doesn't scare you away though, there is another video that is by Doug. That is Doug's Guide for New Content Creators. And I'm going to paste that here. Oh, I copied the text and not the link. Doug's Guide for New Content Creators. And this is what I would recommend if you've watched Ludwig's video, you've heard him talk about what the reality of being a live streamer, of being a content creator is, then I would recommend you watch this video by Doug. Doug, if you haven't seen his streams, he does incredible streams merging computer science and gaming and all of these things. It's super fun, super cool. And he talks about how to find something that makes you personally happy, that you're personally interested in, and how to use that then to hopefully leverage that into a career or a side hustle or a successful content creation, something. Those are some tips, because again, I've really looked into this, of some places to start. Those are two people who are really huge, who've done this before, who've done this a lot, and their thoughts about it. Hopefully that's helpful in a way that me, as a 20-year-old who is just kind of doing what I can, I might not necessarily be able to give you as good of advice as they can. Oh, with that, it's 5:59. Let's see, what is the stream that is coming up next? It is Intro to GitHub with Zane coming up next. On a side note, how do you manage your hobbies from your profession, or rather differentiate it? In essence, it is my profession is the thing that I want or need to rely on to make sure that I can survive under capitalism. I can pay for housing and food and heat and clothes. And my hobbies are the things that I do for fun because they bring joy to my life. And I'm trying at least to have a strong division between those, of doing something to support myself that is not necessarily my favorite thing in the world, but is something that I can live with, that doesn't drain me, that gives some value to my life and also allows me to pay the bills, and then have hobbies that are exciting and fun and connect me with people. With that though, I am going to get off the stage because we have Intro to GitHub right after this. GitHub is a wonderful tool for being able to manage version control on your code and share it with others. So definitely stick around if you want to learn how to do that. I highly recommend it. Thank you all so much for watching. It has been wonderful having you all here and talking with y'all. And happy hacking. If you want to come back for the part 2 of this stream, it is going to be on Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you so much. Happy hacking, and stick around for GitHub. Bye, y'all.